1985. At the age of 24 in 2009, that is when Dylan met a woman named Laura Babcock at just like a random bar. Laura and Dylan actually dated for a couple months, but then they sort of realized that they weren't, meant for each other in that way, so they kind of moved from having a relationship into friends with benefits until in 2010, Dylan was taking up skydiving classes, and that is where he met his soon-to-be girlfriend, Christina. Since Laura was in a very tough spot in life, sometimes her and Dylan would talk, but Christina got very jealous that Laura was talking to Dylan. April 7th of 2012, Christina is fed up with Laura. Dylan then tells Christina that he's going to take care of Laura. July 3rd of 2012, she went to a subway station, and that is actually where she met up with Dylan, and Dylan drove Laura to his father's house. July 3rd, that same exact night at 7:03 p.m., it was shown that Laura, the last time she was on her phone, she had checked her voicemails, and they knew that it was coming from her phone through a nearby cell tower. At 7:30 p.m., about 30 minutes later, Dylan sends off a text to his friend Mark that reads, "I'm on a mission, be back in 1 hour." On the next day, July 4th, there was a picture taken of a long blue tarp, and right next to it there was a dog. And on that same exact day, Dylan had actually bought a commercial incinerator. On July 14th, the family had not seen Laura since that one day, July 3rd, so they started to get really worried. On July 14th, that's when the parents filed a missing persons report for Laura. On July 24th, Dylan sends off another text to his friend Mark saying, "Barbecue has run its warm-up. It's time for meat." And then right afterwards, he Googles temperature for cremation. During this time period, he decided to take up on theft. He just did it because he wanted the thrill. Shortly after this, in 2013, there was this man by the name of Tim Bosma. Tim was a contractor, and he was actually in the process of building his family's very first home. So what he decided to do was sell his 2007 Dodge Ram truck on Facebook Marketplace in order to get a little bit extra money for this house that he was building. So then Tim later gets a message from Dylan asking if Dylan and his friend could come and see the truck on May 6th at 9 p.m. just to do a quick little test drive. Tim agreed, and then on May 6th of 2013, that is when Dylan and Mark had showed up to Tim's house, but weirdly on foot. They literally just walked to the house. It was Tim, Mark, and Dylan. They got in the pickup truck, and that is when Tim told his wife that they'd be back in a little bit. That was the last time Tim would ever be seen by his wife. After like an hour of them being gone, his wife decided to text him and be like, "Hey, where you guys at?" 3 hours went by and no response, and she started to get really worried. She goes to sleep, wakes up the next morning, and realizes that the car is still gone and Tim is still out. Usually Tim is very good about telling his wife where he's going or what times he'll be home at, so this was very odd. And so that's when she decides to call the police and file a missing persons report for Tim. Someone actually found Tim's phone in a industrial area. Now the police went out to that area, searched around, and they couldn't find any clues as to like where Tim was. So apparently on the same day that they went to Tim's house, they actually had 2 other test drive appointments that they needed to go to through Facebook Marketplace. The first appointment that they were supposed to go to, they never went to, but the second one they went to, they actually went to and test drove the car, but nothing happened to the second guy. He messaged people through his personal Facebook page. The police asked to look at the phone conversations between the man and these like alleged 2 guys that came to test drive. Started looking through Dylan's profile to make sure that, it was the same guy. They actually ended up finding Tim's car at the mom's house. So immediately when the police saw Tim's truck, right then and there, Dellen was arrested on May 11th, 2013 for forcible confinement and theft over $5,000. When Dellen was brought into questioning, the police, they went down to his farmhouse, and when they went down there, they found the incinerator, and when they were investigating the incinerator, they actually found human remains inside of the incinerator. Those human remains found in the incinerator was Tim's. On May 14th, when those DNA results came back, Dellen's charges were upgraded to the first-degree murder. And now that Dellen is in custody, they're trying to examine his charges, and that's when the police start looking into Laura's case and how Laura might be connected with Dellen. On February 1st of 2016, that is when Mark and Dellen's trials began, and they both pled not guilty. June 17th of 2016, they were both guilty of the first-degree murder of Tim, and they were given life with possibility of parole in 25 years. Now that Tim's case was closed, they started looking more into Laura's case. Police ended up finding all of the text messages on Dellen's phone being sent to Christina about how he was going to hurt Laura and then leave her. They went snooping through Mark's iPad as well, and on Mark's iPad they found the photo of the blue tarp that I showed you earlier, along with a photo of Mark standing next to the incinerator in the background. December of 2017, another charge was added to Dellen's sentence, first-degree murder of Laura. Not only was Dellen charged, but Mark was also charged for this as well. Mark and Dellen at this point had life in prison with the possibility of parole in 50 years instead of 25 years.
Now this is crazy. It sounds like some crazy love triangle, twisted, messed up stuff. Boy, oh boy, you can't even date and express yourself and feelings and none of that nowadays without people wanting to get all jealous, mad, etc., etc. You know, trying to kill you. You got, man, it's just so messed up. And it's a good thing that they can backtrack and look through people's devices and see what type of people, blah, 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 etc. How they communicate, how they talk, who they communicate, who they talk to. So it's good to know that they was able to backtrack, look through some stuff, photos, whatever they need to make sure justice is served to the best, most expected, you know what I'm saying? So if you guys out there dating, doesn't matter who you know, who you're dating, make sure you know all the facts about the individual before you get too deep involved in something that you can no longer get yourself out of.
Watch as this child predator gets busted by police at his doorstep in his La Crosse, Wisconsin residence. When police authorities received information that certain explicit images of children from ages 3 to 14 were being uploaded to the internet, they began to sniff out the predator. These images were traced to devices belonging to a 46-year-old Brian Schaefer, a La Crosse, Wisconsin resident. Armed with a search warrant, the police showed up at the door of his apartment, ready to take him into custody.
Is this you guys home?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna come in.
No.
Okay, Brian. Why? I have a warrant. For what? Okay, step out, please. For what? Put your hands behind your back.
After putting Brian in cuffs, he is marched to the police vehicle where he meets his girlfriend and fills her in on the situation.
Baby, apparently I'm getting arrested. I don't know. They won't tell me.
They'll fill you in back at the
They don't have a warrant for the house, so they can't take anything out of your house.
Over here.
They only have a warrant for my arrest. That's it.
Since the warrant covered a seizure of any devices on him, Brian's phone was taken from him, but officers would encounter blatant refusal to cooperate from Brian as they tried to get Brian to put his fingerprint to unlock the device.
Search warrant gives me permission to take your fingerprint, okay, and try to unlock these phones, okay? Understand me? Brian, I'm asking you to do this. Okay.
After realizing what a futile effort it is to struggle, especially as the officers were armed with a warrant, Brian begrudgingly unlocks his phone.
I'll break my hand.
You're gonna break your hand?
My hand. My own
Why
hand.
would you do that?
Jesus Christ. Here, do whatever the you gotta do, dude.
The phone was later found to contain 5 explicit images of children, but interestingly, it would seem that Brian at this point had no idea why he was being arrested, or was doing a very good job of acting. He keeps on asking the authorities on why he was being arrested, and finally, the officers tell him.
I have a search warrant to search the residence and a search for you.
For what?
Okay? For That's why we're here.
The officers tried to get him to talk about the crime, but Brian was not forthcoming at all.
You want to talk to me about it, or are you gonna not? Or do you not want to talk about it?
I'm not going through what we went through last time. I should have never talked to you back then.
In fact, he remained unfazed and even asked the authorities which platform the images surfaced on.
What site did I supposedly upload to this time?
Interestingly, Brian is a familiar face with the wrong side of the law, especially when it comes to offenses related to children. Nearly 2 decades ago, he was convicted of second-degree sexual assault of a child and spent 3.5 years in jail. Also, in 2018, he was charged with child pornography, a case that has been delayed due to the death of his court-appointed attorney. He was released in 2019 on a bond of $1,000, with the condition that he would not possess any device that would link him to the internet. The drive to the police station was uneventful. Brian was ushered into the room for a formal booking. With this latest offense, Brian was charged with several counts of child pornography and bail jumping. His bail was set to $25,000 with the condition that he stays away from minors, mobile phones, and any computer devices. All we can say is that we cannot wait for this criminal to be convicted, and whatever the outcome of the case is, a lot of people will rest easy knowing that this child predator would not be getting out anytime soon.
This guy's a very sick and disturbing individual. I cannot believe he was uploading little kids onto the internet. Like, you was getting paid, people was paying you to do this, or you was just doing this against, you know what I'm saying, their will because they're minors, they're kids. How did you get these pictures? Who sent you these pictures? And are you part of what they call those people who, exchange photos with people, kids, minors, and make them seem this and that, whatever. And something like this was going on where they was like, sending certain pictures and then they ask for money or kill yourself type thing. I'm pretty sure y'all know about this little trend that has started. But knowing that this 50-year-old guy, a 3-year-old to 14-year-olds, come on, bro. And then you uploading it, your IP address, everything already been, traced. So he up here acting surprised is just dumb.